So let's say you're shooting at a wedding reception, and due to the type of lighting that they have at that venue, you're getting those horizontal dark bars, that banding, rolling up your frame. I'm not going to go into all the details about the type of lighting that does that and how it works. There's a pretty good article by B&H, I'll link in the description below if you want to check that out. But really what's happening there is that your camera is catching up to the flicker of the lighting. Now sometimes that looks like actual flickers in your footage where you can see it going on and off, but sometimes it shows itself in your footage as that rolling banding going up your frame. Now the faster your shutter speed, the more pronounced that's going to be because your camera is catching up to that flicker. But the problem that I recently had that I've never had before and I didn't know how to deal with was I was shooting at 24 frames per second, 1/50th shutter speed. So as slow of a shutter speed as I'm usually ever going to shoot, and I was still getting that horizontal banding in my footage. I didn't know what to do. Now the banding wasn't nearly as pronounced as it was if I cranked the shutter speed up a bit more. It was pretty subtle, but I could definitely notice it. So it's a problem and I never want it to happen again. So how do you avoid that even if you're shooting at such slow shutter speeds? Now number one, obviously if you have your own lighting, that's what you're gonna wanna do. You're gonna wanna use the lighting from your own setup because you know you're not gonna have that problem, and you wanna make sure that your lighting is powerful enough to kind of overpower what's going on around it, so you're still not gonna get those waves and banding in your footage. But let's say you don't have your own lighting setup. What I wanna test today is if shooting at slower shutter speeds than 1/50th of a second will be acceptable footage in order to avoid having that horizontal banding, those rolling bars in your footage. How far can I push that shutter speed to go slow enough and still be acceptable? Because going any slower than 1/50th of a second breaks that rule, that 180-degree shutter rule saying 24 frames per second times 2 is 50. That's where you should keep it. Can we break that rule in this instance? To me, it seems pretty obvious. Maybe you have a different view on it, but at about 1/25th of a second, so 25 on your camera, that seems totally passable to me to have decent footage in order to get rid of that horizontal rolling banding that you have. I would have much rather have gone down to that slower shutter speed than still have even a subtle rolling banding in my footage. Now, once you get to 1/20th of a second, I absolutely don't think it's passable anymore, but at the same time, I don't think you're gonna need to go that low in order to get that banding out of your footage. I think going down to 1/25th of a second is totally sufficient. You're probably not gonna have any more of those problems. I was surprised at 1/50th of a second that I was still having even subtle banding in there. So I hope this was helpful, and if you find yourself in this situation, I hope you can feel the freedom to go down to 1/25th of a second or whatever you feel comfortable doing so that you can be confident that your footage is clear and free of any of those dark bands, because they do not look good. If you like this video, please consider subscribing. I have a lot more videos just like this on the channel related mostly to wedding filmmaking, but also just video creation in general. So we'd love to have you here. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. See you all in the next video.